Hi, welcome to MathomBooks. My name is Jeremy, and today I'm reviewing for you the Star Wars novel by Claudia Gray called Lost Stars. This is the second novel that I've read by Claudia Gray in a short period of time. I recently read her other Star Wars novel called Bloodline. You can see my review there for that. She's a great author, very solid writer. I do have issues with it, of course, but I don't even blame the author. I blame Disney for the things that I don't care for it. But it's more of a culture shift in the writing of Star Wars, more so than anything Claudia Gray did or does. I found her writing in this book to be just as solid, if not even better. She's a really good writer for just kind of pulling you into a story. Quick-paced, page turner. If there's any downside to her as an author and what I see in her writing style, it's that there's a kind of a casualness about her writing, saying things like, hell yeah, when it's in Star Wars, and that kind of stuff. I've talked about it before. It's anachronistic. It doesn't fit in the time period of a science fiction piece like Star Wars, which is a galaxy a long time ago, far, far away. So anyways, I've talked about that at length. That also comes up here in this book again. But overall, I found the writing to be just as good, if not better, than it was in Bloodline. And that was a well-written book, as far as a Star Wars novel goes. There was a lot that I liked about this book. It tells a story of two people, and it starts out when they're children. One boy who's kind of an aristocratic, comes from a wealthier family, named Thane Kyrell, and a girl, Sienna Ree, who's kind of from a poor, the poor side of town. They live on a planet on the outer rim, far, far out there in the middle of nowhere, called Jelucan. And at the time of this book, Episode 3, The Revenge of the Jedi, it's about 6 years later. So the Empire has just been established. Darth Vader is Darth Vader. He's no longer Anakin Skywalker. He's the Emperor's, second man. And the Empire is very quickly gaining power, taking over star systems, and ruling, with force. Now, these two characters, Thane and Sienna, when they're young, they are all excited to be part of the Empire. The Empire has yet to show its evil side, so to speak. It's just the government, right? It's just the Empire. And they are happy to be servants of the Empire. So they go to work, they want to be pilots, they're really good pilots, and they work really hard, and they join the Empire Academy and become pilots within the Empire. Without giving the whole story away, but this is what's written on the back of the book, so it's not too much. What happens fairly quickly is the Empire, being the Empire ruled by Emperor Palpatine, begins to show how evil it is. And Thane Kyrell quickly gets a distaste for the Empire, eventually leaves the Empire and joins the fledgling, the very infantile rebellion, the Rebel Alliance. And it follows their story between Sienna, who stays with the Empire, and Thane, who's with the rebellion, and how their relationship goes forward. Sounds interesting, right? It is. It also happens that there's a romantic interest between these two. They're not only great friends, but there's some romance involved. So you get to see what happens, right? Lost stars, you think of star-crossed lovers from Romeo and Juliet. Similar play of here going on. Now, what I liked about this book, I did enjoy. You will see in this book, it's kind of like a nice review for new Star Wars fans of the original trilogy, because what you see is these characters' lives through all the major events of the original trilogy. So episode 4, 5, and 6. A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. All those major events are covered, if you will, and experienced by these two characters, Thane and Sienna. That's kind of cool. You get a different perspective. You see, so there's kind of some cool cameos. Grand Moff Tarkin makes an appearance. Dak, this is a real surprise to me. You get some backstory on Dak. He's the character that has a very brief episode with Luke Skywalker. Princess Leia comes into it a little bit. Luke Skywalker is hinted at and mentioned. Darth Vader, etc. So that's really interesting. That's also part of its weakness. And it's my main critique, I think, of this book, and that's this. Even though you're witnessing the events of the original trilogy kind of through the eyes of these two different characters and their friends, some of the events of those movies, of the original trilogy, of the Star Wars story, some of those events get watered down, they get lessened, they get de-emphasized. Because you have things happening like, for example, Thane, who doesn't really believe in the Force, when he hears how Luke destroyed the first Death Star, he says, oh, Luke got lucky, right? Yeah, Luke's great and all, he just got lucky. And that's fine for one character, I guess, to think that. But later, as he joins the Rebel Alliance, and other Rebel Alliance people have these kind of diminished views of someone like Luke, who we know is a great hero, a Jedi Knight. He's treated like, oh, he's just some guy. Oh yeah, Luke, he's one of the other rebels, and boy, he sure got lucky, in killing that first Death Star. Oh yeah, and did you hear? He's crazy. He wants to become a Jedi, whatever those are, right? It minimizes, it diminishes the importance and the meaning of what it means to be a Jedi, and what a Jedi is, and how special it is, and the Force, and how the Force is important, right? This is the Star Wars universe. The Force is, even if not believed by everybody, right? Even Han Solo didn't believe the Force, but he knew of it being there and talked about and being a religion, right, at least. Thane just kind of views it as, I don't know, crazy talk, And that, to me, is misleading. It can be misleading to the reader, because then you get this view that, well, I guess Luke really maybe did just get lucky, right? Maybe the heroic events of Han Solo and Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker that we know about from the trilogy, maybe they weren't all that great. Maybe they just were idealistic people who got lucky a couple times and whatever. So that's that. Tied to that, in tandem with that, is a very interesting and very difficult to swallow humanization of the Empire. Because Sienna is part of the Empire and Thane is at the beginning, they have friends, and all their friends they're all in the Empire. And you get this idea from Claudia Gray, the author, that these people are really good people. They're nice, they're funny, they laugh, they have jokes, they want what's best for the world. They just so happen to work for the Empire, who's, blowing up planets like Alderaan and killing billions of people instantly. And to me, it just didn't quite work. It didn't make enough sense. It doesn't fit. The Empire, as we know from the original Star Wars trilogy and old canon books, the Empire is evil. They want power. They are, in a sense, one-sidedly evil. And you might say, okay, well, Jeremy, but that's not really real life, right? Real life is more complex. Evil is more, complicated than that, and there's shades of gray, and there's, what if there were some good people on there? Okay, fine. You can have perhaps some somewhat naive, or even subjugated slaves type people working for the empire. But the problem with that is that it does suddenly shift all the events of the original trilogy, the destruction of the Death Star, the destruction of the second Death Star, and it turns it into, oh, wait a second, is the Rebel Alliance just a bunch of terrorists who do the same exact thing? Yeah, the Empire blows up a planet now and again, but hey, those, Rebel Alliance people, they blew up our Death Star, and that had, hundreds of thousands of innocent people on it. And that's a problem. See, because that's what the book tries to do. It tries to make that case, and I didn't think it worked in terms of the writing. How can you think these characters are good? It's kind of like, they're good on the inside, right? They're bad on the outside. Their actions are bad, but they're good on the inside. It doesn't work that way, right? We're forced to rate these people, judge these people based on their actions, because they're part of the empire. This isn't the world, right? This isn't a Western civilization, Judeo-Christian world where we apply these types of moral standards in the sense that, well, God sees their heart. It's not how it works in Star Wars, right? In Star Wars, you're based by what you do. And so that was a weakness. Now, furthermore, when you humanize the Empire like that, it again de-emphasizes and devalues the good that Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, Lando Calrissian, all the great Rebel Alliance people who sacrificed for freedom, right? They were fighting for good. They were fighting against evil. And they had to do what they did. And they didn't kill innocent people. See, that's the thing. When they blew up the Death Star, ostensibly, here's my case, the Death Star was a military target. Okay? It was a military target that was being used to destroy planets. And if you're on a ship that destroys planets, you're culpable, right? It seems to me. And you're not just some innocent family, for example, raising your kids on the Death Star, right? It doesn't work that way. At least that's not how it's ever worked in Star Wars. And so with these books, these newer books, Lost Stars as an example, Bloodline does some of this kind of stuff as well. This modernization of ethics, we're all trying for the same thing, we just have different tactics, or we just have different means to an end, right? I don't buy it. There's more to it. There's a reason why the efforts of the rebels were good, they were heroic, they were valiant, they were noble. There's a reason you feel good when John Williams' score at the end of each, at least Return of the Jedi and A New Hope, after the Death Star has been destroyed, there's a reason you feel good, right? After reading Lost Stars, you almost want to say, oh man, today was a sad day. We had to destroy the Death Star. And I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work. Not in sci-fi, not in fantasy literature, not in romantic space opera, as Star Wars is and has always been. If you want to say, well, Jeremy, we're doing more complex things now, we're getting different dimensions on right and wrong. One, if you're going to do that, do it better. Two, it doesn't, if you're going to do that, like I said, make it better. Two, do it in a different novel. Do it in a different universe. Don't do it with Star Wars. Sorry if that's not the most clear thing in the world. And that leads me to another issue that is lacking from the book. And again, I don't want to even attack just Claudia Gray's book here, but I think it's kind of part of the new Disney canon of Star Wars novels, because I got the same sense even in Chuck Wendig's book, Aftermath, which I disliked greatly. And that is the lack of the Force. There was a sense of this book that the Force was just kind of this obscure thing that only a couple people believed in, if it was even true. And I feel like, for some reason, like Disney wants to stay away from, or is afraid of, mysticism, for there to be a little bit of spirituality, right, in the world, in Star Wars. This effort to kind of make it all scientific and natural and part of the earth. The whole thing that Lucas did even with the prequels, and the midichlorians and all that stuff, right, that people were so upset about. I'm still upset about it. And this book and books like this, they kind of have that similar feel, There's none of that great discussion we get with Yoda, when Empire Strikes Back, of the presence, of the Force, and it's everywhere, and it's all the time. And in this book, it's action, romance, story, empire, and there's some good stuff in there. Like I said, it is well written overall, but it's a Star Wars book, and I keep asking, where's the Force? Where is this all-controlling power, this spiritual influence in this world? And, it just is lacking, and I wish there was more of it. I wish they could incorporate more of that sense of the desire to be a Jedi, and the sense of even regular people, to be in touch in some way with the Force, and to have that as part of their life, because then it just makes you think, well, what are there, like, 4 people in the entire universe who know and use the Force? I don't know. That was another issue for me that definitely stuck out. So, tied to what I've touched on already, which is that kind of minimalizing of the hero's role in all this, there's this sort of critique that goes on in this book about, like, the choices of the Rebel Alliance, such as putting Han Solo, right, in charge of the ground forces that go down and take out the shield generator, right, in Return of the Jedi. They're kind of like, well, why would they trust this guy, right, this smuggler guy? And there's no real knowledge. Lando Calrissian is called Captain Calrissian when he's leading the other attack on the Death Star, right? And the response was kind of like, geez, who are these guys? And are they just letting just anybody, run this thing? And I get it. You might say, yeah, but it's true, right? Who is Lando Calrissian, and why was he suddenly made a captain? I think that a lot of this is coming from the fact that I've read a lot of Star Wars books in the past. A lot of these, older canon books. And in those books, Lando, Han, Leia, Chewbacca, Luke, of course, Anakin, Wedge Antilles, etc., Biggs, they became heroes, genuinely. They did great things, and it's kind of like, there's no wonder they were put in charge. They earned those positions. Certainly Han Solo, without his intervention, they would have never destroyed the first Death Star, right? So it seems to me that in the Rebel Alliance there should be a very clear understanding of who the heroes are. These are our rallying points. We rally around Princess Leia, we rally around Han Solo. And so for them not to have that, for them to be this kind of empty, like, well, who's that guy, is odd. And it just doesn't quite work. I feel like it could have been thought out a little more, or if it was thought out a lot, I guess I just disagree with the approach. And I would have loved to have seen a more cohesive Rebel Alliance, in the sense, at least, even if it's fledgling, even if it's still new and growing, you'd still want to have this sense that, hey, this is the galaxy, or, word spreads fast, right? Certainly within those circles, at least. If you're so dead set against rebellion, you would be absolutely thrilled and out of your mind. And before you join this group, you'd want to know, or would know, their history, how they started, the things they've done against the Empire. It seems to me. If you disagree, or you think I'm coming at this from a totally wrong angle, please talk to me about it, right? I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your comments. I love responding and having those discussions with you, especially about Star Wars. It's such a fun topic. One final thought. It does have this really awesome scene towards the end. Sienna is witness to the arrival of the Emperor on the Death Star, in Return of the Jedi. And she can feel the evil, right? She can feel it. And she is already having all these misgivings. By this point, she's begun to really wonder, is her loyalty to the Empire a good thing? And that's a great scene. And I loved that. To me, that felt very authentic, very real Star Wars. And I would have loved more of that. It did, however, kind of go in the wrong direction from there. This is a spoiler, so if you have not read the book yet, please don't listen beyond this point. But it's a spoiler to know that she eventually does give up her allegiance to the Empire. But she doesn't want to join Rebel Alliance, and she still considers Rebel Alliance to be wrong and evil, and the New Republic, to be something that she won't stand for. And I didn't like that. I didn't agree with that. You would think somebody that would have discovered how evil the Empire was, that would be thrilled to see there was another side, So that was kind of a letdown. To me, it was a little anticlimactic. This character who supposedly is in love with Thane won't even join him because she has some sense of honor or duty to this oath she made to the Empire. To me, that was strange. It didn't work. Sue me, right, for wanting a classic ending, in a sense of a love story, where what's wrong with her? Renouncing her allegiance to the Empire, realizing she was wrong, and, in humility and in excitement, coming to the Rebel Alliance, to the man she loves, and wanting to stand by his side, in that alliance, right, in that union. To me, that's beautiful. It's a powerful story. It's a analog to marriage and the beauty of, that relationship. And I just felt that would have been so much more satisfying. But that's about it. I appreciate you very much for listening. Thank you for being a part of this, for joining MathomBooks. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Tezi and I love to talk about books. We're reading The Lord of the Rings currently. Having a lot of fun with that. We're in the Two Towers. And that's it. There's more to come. Thank you. Go find your voice.